Brought to you by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast equipment rentals in Brooklyn, New York. JMRNY.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey. Recently, I took a trip to Los Angeles to get the real story of what it's like to live there and work in the entertainment industry. I interviewed friends and colleagues and asked them to tell me their stories. The following is an uncensored and candid look at Hollywood through the eyes of industry professionals. Do me a favor, just give me a clap in front of your face. Just give me a clap right in front of your face. Take one.
Hi, Joe Melendez.
Don't say hi.
No hi?
No hi.
Screw you. Joe Melendez, actor based in New York, originally from New York.
My name is Bill Hammon. I'm a game show writer and producer. I'm originally from Newark, Delaware, but I've lived in LA now for just about 8 years.
My name is Adonis Tsilimparis. I'm a composer, producer, and music supervisor. I live here in Los Angeles. Moved here from New York 4 years ago.
I'm Indy Gott. I am a filmmaker. I am originally from Florida. I've been in Hollywood for almost 8 years now.
I'm Morgan Page. I am from New York. I lived in LA now for 4 years, and I'm an actor, producer, singer-songwriter. You know, I think that Hollywood in your fantasy world is like magical.
Well, I grew up watching the old movies, so I had the dream of like the old Hollywood glamour of the 40s and everything.
My mom used to tell the story that basically when I could start talking, I would watch Jeopardy, crawl up to the TV, and then just touch it with my hand and be like, I'm going to be there.
You see things on television, you think like, oh, this is going to be a fantastic place. And it is, don't get me wrong or confuse that, but it's just like you have this perception. And when you live here, you realize it's more of a working town than it is a, like that fantasy that you're thinking of.
I think my soul called me out here. I did have some projects under my belt that I was trying to produce in New York. However, I needed a change, and I was kind of getting tired of New York, how fast-paced it was. And I feel like LA was calling to me, even though I wasn't where I wanted to be in the industry. However, there are major challenges, being that I am female, but then it's a pro that I am female. Then it's like, as a producer, right now it's women empowerment world, so that's a pro, but then I'm also like a blonde. It's like, am I taken as seriously? You know, there's pros and cons to everything, I think. For me personally, I think it's definitely more conducive for me to be in Los Angeles than New York because I've had way more opportunities here with my music, with producing, with meeting industry people, financiers. The doors are opening.
Originally, I went to school for visual effects at Noman. I did 3 years as a 3D generalist education through the workshop, and I learned everything from post-production. My logic behind it all for me to get into directing was to become a post-production expert. So I went, instead of going to film school, I went to visual effects school and got my education in that, and then I got a foot in the door doing VFX wrangling with an ASC member who was a VFX supervisor, and he brought me on a show, and that was kind of like my leg into the industry for a big Hollywood productions.
About a year and a half after college, I got my first real job at ESPN as a production assistant, then turned into an editor. It was a skill I developed in college, not what I thought my forte was going to be, but it paid the bills certainly. After a few years, I kind of got disillusioned with the place and knew that I had to make the transition as soon as I could. July of 2014, I finally resigned at ESPN, packed up all my stuff, and got on the plane. It took 10 months to the day for me to get my first true job out here working for what was at the time a new game show called The Wall on NBC. That was my first attempt to really get anything going, and just being a trivia nerd my entire life and being a game show nerd for a good chunk of it, it just kind of came naturally. For the next few years after that, it was kind of hit and miss, just getting whatever I could find, not having too much success. And there were a couple of points where I was damn near bankrupt. But in 2019, at the very end of the year, things started to turn around. I got my first job with a show on Game Show Network, and I kind of got my foot in the door there, proved myself to them, and I've been going strong fairly well ever since.
Fast 5 had just been released, and it was a huge hit. A few months earlier, actually, Oliver Stone had flown me out to LA to meet with him about a project that he was doing. So I was feeling a little full of myself. So I decided, all right, you know what, it's time. And I moved out to LA in 2010. And that was probably the dumbest thing I ever did. Because, first of all, in 2010, 20 shows moved from LA to New York. So the LA, at that point, LA was having in bad financial trouble. So they actually cut the tax incentive for production. So they lost a lot of production. And that's actually when I happened to move there. So I made absolutely not a single impression when I moved to LA. I think I'm the only actor living in LA who made a living just doing theater. I honestly thought I was going to get out there, you know, Fast 5 had just come out. Oliver Stone knew who I was. I figured I was going to get out there. Somebody was going to put me in a movie and I was going to become a movie star within 6 months. Honestly, that's as unrealistic as it sounds. That's what I thought was going to happen. That's how much faith I had in myself. And of course, it did not. And I think the best thing that ever happened for my career was that it didn't. LA kicked my ass. And at that time in my life, I needed my ass kicked. And it made all the difference in my career, honestly.
They say the same thing about if you're going to live in New York, you need to be very thick-skinned. So you're going to need to be that here as well, because it's tough out here in many ways. Not the same sort of a toughness as in New York, but you do have to be tough. You do have to have a purpose. You need to be very, very driven, very focused.
I think experience too, life experience. If you don't have life experience, then I don't think you should come out here. Because you don't know people. People run all over. There's sharks out here. There are sharks. I've had some experiences. They will piggyback on you or say anything just to, I'm a woman. It's like you have to be discerning. Just grow some thick skin, as much as you can.
It also kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a studio executive, then yes, you have to have that whole mindset of money's the only thing that matters. Everything is a good idea until it isn't. Schmooze with everybody, pass out business cards like a jerk from the 80s. You have to have that very extroverted type of personality. For creatives, it can go either way. You can either be extroverted or introverted like me. You just have to find the right moments and, like I said, make those connections so that you get a chance to let your talent shine through. Because once you do, once you convince someone that you're quality, you're in until you really mess up.
If you're introverted, you might have a hard time because you need to schmooze. You need to schmooze, you need to network, you need to, get yourself out there and be around people a lot. So if you're an extrovert, you'll be fine.
Networking is a skill that really can't be taught, but it can oftentimes be the difference between getting a job and not, even much more so than your actual skills.
When I first got here, I was told that I was a little too upfront because I'm a New Yorker, and I think New Yorkers scare the LA people a bit. So yeah, you do have to be careful. I mean, it's okay to approach someone and say, hello, my name is Adonis, but you can't push too hard and say, hey, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a composer, and then shove it in their faces. You need to become their friend and talk to them and hang with them. And don't be a don't do your sales thing until you get to know them and hang with them a bit. You just got to be easy about it and go slow. You have to be slow and aggressive at the same time. I know that makes no sense, but that's how it is.
And mind you, when you're coming out here, you have to be realistic with yourself and be like, okay, I am here. You can, if you meet someone that's here, that's great, but you really need to focus and key in on those relationships. So you don't want to be jumping in and say, hey, oh, by the way, here's my script, can you go read it? And you just met them. Like, it's kind of like building any kind of dating relationship. You don't want to jump in and, do your thing. You're not a one night stand kind of person. And most people aren't. A lot of people are classy, so you have to be very long. You have to keep that relationship going.
It's a weird dance you have to do because everybody knows that you want to get a job, but you can never actually tell them that you're just trying to get a job. It's such a delicate, nonsensical balance that you have to deal with. And for me personally, my critical thinking skills and my personal bullshit filter kind of says, why are we doing this? But it's the nature of the beast, and it's just something you have to get used to. Like, you're not going to be the one to change the paradigm on this one. Like, you just kind of have to go along with it. Once you do start getting work, then the next big thing is very much about, the old adage of picking your battles. There are a lot of times where you will be asked to do something that makes absolutely no sense, could even be downright stupid, just to appease someone who could buy and sell you in an instant. And a lot of times you're just going to have to bite your lip and deal with it. You can either be right or you can be employed. Once you get yourself into a higher position, once you start getting to producer level stuff, director level stuff, once people are coming to you for stuff rather than you having to come to them for jobs, that's when you can start making the incremental changes that'll make this industry that much better each and every time.
The thing that I think I learned most about living in LA is how to stay real, as opposed to falling for all the bullshit that you're fed constantly, because you're constantly fed bullshit.
So how I deal with rejection or the full of shit people or any of that is I am extremely in touch with my spirituality. I meditate morning and night, and I don't go on social media a lot, even though I usually just post and leave, or, people, it's good for some people and some people can work that way. I personally, to know yourself, and I know myself, and I'm extremely intuitive, and I can't operate that way. So I have to post and leave, and I can't get caught up in all of that. If I'm rejected, okay, it's another one. I'm taping all the time. I have my projects. I don't really hold on to things that I used to hold on to before. I let them go, because you have to let them go. And you're just building your strength of who you are, and your vision just gets stronger.
To move out there as an actor and to survive who you are, keeping who you are as opposed to letting the business destroy you, you'd have to be older. I think it would be I think young people going to LA is a bad idea. Only because, again, you fall into that trap and you believe that that's what the world is really like. And once you get to a point, that you're not as hot as you were last week, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow.
Personally, coming out here younger, I would have drowned in the business through my personal life. But I feel that coming out here older, it humbles you because of your struggle. So I feel that coming out here younger, I would have been, if let's say I was making money very young, I would have probably been a little more egotistical.
I would have been a real dick. If I had become, if my dream had happened and I would have taken off, I would have been one of those assholes, because I just thought too much of myself, and it's exactly what I hate about the industry. And that's who I was, and I had to learn the hard way, and I appreciate every single second of it, and I would not trade it for anything.
And that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank Adonis Tsilimparis, Morgan Page, Indy Gott, William Hammon, and Joseph Melendez, and our sponsor, JMR Rentals. For Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.